There are footballers. There are great footballers. And then, once in a generation, there's something else entirely. Something that makes you stop what you are doing. Something that makes commentators forget the words they were trained to use. Ronaldo Nazário was that thing. Not a player, a phenomenon. A player so complete, so devastatingly good, that the sport itself seemed too small to contain him. But this is not just a story about brilliance. It is a story about what happens when the greatest gift in football is placed inside a body that was never going to hold up. This is the story of Ronaldo and the price he paid for being the best. Ronaldo de Lima was born in 1976 in Bento Ribeiro, a working-class neighborhood on the outskirts of Rio de Janeiro. He grew up poor. His father left the family when he was a child. Football was not a pastime. It was the only road out. By the time he was a teenager, people who watched him play stopped talking about potential. They started talking in absolutes. He joined Cruzeiro at 16. By 17, he was already in the senior squad. By the time Brazil called him up for the 1994 World Cup, he was still a teenager, and he was already too good to leave on the bench. He did not play a single minute at that World Cup. He went home with a winner's medal, having not kicked a ball in the tournament. That told you everything about how good Brazil were, and everything about how much better Ronaldo was about to get. Barcelona signed him in 1996 for what was then a world record fee. He was 19 years old. He scored 47 goals in 49 appearances. He won the UEFA Cup Winners' Cup and the Copa del Rey. He won FIFA World Player of the Year. He was 19, and he was already the best footballer alive. What separated Ronaldo was not just pace, though the pace was terrifying. It was the combination, the balance, the close control at full sprint, the finishing that looked casual even when it was not. He could beat you standing still, and he could beat you at full speed. Defenders had no answer because there was no answer. Then he left Barcelona under circumstances that became one of football's great legal disputes. He moved to Inter Milan, and whatever had come before, it was about to be surpassed. In the 1997-98 season, he scored 25 goals in Serie A. He dragged Inter to the UEFA Cup, producing a performance in the final that people who were there still struggle to describe without reaching for language that sounds like exaggeration. He won FIFA World Player of the Year again. He was 21. The football world had run out of superlatives and had started recycling them. But the body was already starting to send signals. Small injuries, niggles that came and went. Nothing that raised real alarm. Not yet. Brazil went to France 1998 as favorites. Ronaldo went as the best player in the world. The final against France was supposed to be his coronation. What happened instead has never been fully explained. Hours before kickoff, Ronaldo suffered what was described at the time as a convulsive fit. Teammates found him in his hotel room. He was taken to hospital, assessed, and, in a decision that still generates debate, cleared to play. He played. He was a shadow of himself. France won 3-0. Zinedine Zidane scored twice, and Ronaldo, the man who was supposed to own that final, barely touched the game. What exactly happened in that hotel room has never been definitively established. What is certain is that the greatest player at that World Cup never got to prove it on the biggest night. In November 1999, Ronaldo ruptured the patella tendon in his right knee. He was 23. He would not play competitive football for 19 months. He came back. He worked his way back to fitness. And then, in his first game back, his very first game, he went down again. The same knee, a second rupture, 2 ruptures, same knee, 23 years old. The cruelty of it was almost literary. The second injury cost him another year. By the time he returned to something resembling his previous form, the football world had moved on without him. Players who had grown up watching him were now his teammates. His body had changed. The pace that had once been supernatural was still there, but it came with a price now. Every game cost something. He started to carry weight. His knee and muscle structure demanded it, his body compensating, redistributing load. The image of Ronaldo shifted in the public eye. The conversation moved away from what he was doing and toward what he no longer could. And then came 2002. Brazil went to South Korea and Japan. Ronaldo was 25. He had spent 3 of the previous 5 years injured. The critics, the ones who had started writing his legacy as a what-if story, were waiting to be proved right. He scored 8 goals. He won the Golden Boot. He scored twice in the final against Germany. And when the second one went in, when he turned to the crowd with his arms wide and his face a picture of something beyond joy, it felt like more than a goal. It felt like a man answering every question that had ever been asked about him with a single moment. Brazil won. Ronaldo lifted the trophy. The boy from Bento Ribeiro who had been told by his own body to stop. He had his World Cup. He had his answer to 1998. To Real Madrid in 2002, the club of Galacticos. He scored goals, extraordinary goals, moments where the old Ronaldo surfaced through the new one. But the injuries continued. Muscle tears, knee flare-ups, matches missed, form interrupted, rhythm broken again and again. The story at Real Madrid is one of a player giving everything he had left in installments, because that was all he could afford to give. Some seasons he was almost the player he had been. Other seasons he was a reminder of what had gone. He left Real Madrid in 2007. He spent time at AC Milan, at Corinthians, trying to find something that worked with what remained. In 2011, at 34, he retired. The question that follows Ronaldo Nazário is the most painful one you can ask about a footballer. How good would he have been? Between the ages of 23 and 25, what should have been his absolute peak, he barely played. He had 2 World Cup cycles effectively stolen from him by the same knee. He spent years rebuilding, compensating, adapting. And with all of that, with all of it, he still has 2 FIFA World Player of the Year awards. He still has a World Cup winner's medal. He still has a World Cup golden boot. He still has goals from the UEFA Cup final and the Copa del Rey and Serie A that people replay today, not because they are old highlights, but because they still do not look possible. Imagine what the full version looked like. There is a version of this story where the knees hold, where there is no convulsive episode before a World Cup final, where Ronaldo Nazário has 5 or 6 years of uninterrupted, peak-level football. Most people who watched him closely believe that version of Ronaldo would have redefined what we thought a footballer could be. Not just the best of his generation, the best there has ever been. We did not get that version. What we got was still extraordinary. Still enough to make grown men stop mid-sentence when his name comes up. Still enough to make defenders who faced him shake their heads 30 years later. What we got was a fragment of something infinite, and the fragment alone was enough to change football forever. Thanks for watching Athlete Archives. If you enjoyed this deep dive into sporting history, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. See you in the next one.